Are watching Daredevil Universe, where wonders meet life. I'm on. This is
Oh,
AJ.
and I'm AJ. Sorry, I just got a notification for the stream going live right now, so I looked away for a quick second.
And this is Weirdo Universe. So thanks for tuning in another episode here on our weekend schedule. And today we're going to finally change it up, take a little break. We broke down most of every movie and show we can think of, but we'll continue that down the road. But for now, it's October. And of course, Halloween is practically the main, you could say, celebration of this month. No one takes a day off, but at least it's a fun thing of dressing up. Of course, that's down the road. But of what everyone likes to do when it comes to approaching Halloween, at least, is scary things, movies, stories, etc. So we thought today we'd take a little trip down the urban legend road. And we got a couple, as you can see. We're going to talk about the Bloody Mary, which AJ will do, and I'm going to do about the Wendigos. And let's get right to it.
All right. Do you want to do the Wendigos first, or
We'll do yours first. What do you got for about the Bloody?
okay? Well, I only ask because I know that the whole Bloody Mary information is quite a lot. So I mean, that's why I wasn't sure. But all right.
I'll
So
just
well,
sum it up the best you
yeah,
can.
I'll try and sum it up as best as possible. So, all right, well, my intro for this is going to be kind of fun in a sense. Um, we all know the folklore for Bloody Mary, the usual stuff that a lot of people tend to do as a lot of dares in some situations for slumber parties or sleepovers or whatever during the middle of the night and whatnot. However, I wanted to break this down because I have come across some information about this folklore urban legend that has no single definitive origin, but I'm going to break that down a little bit into a potential origin, which is mostly focused on my ideas or basically my own theory on it. And for starters, we're going to drop it off with talking about the more well-known bit of it, which if you look it up, it really does talk about a lot of the Queen Mary the First. Um, and if that's not as obvious, she is a queen. She was uh, reigning England, if I'm not mistaken, for about 5 years, I believe, until she died through some type of illness. It was considered potentially either some type of cancer within the uterus area. I'm not quite sure. They also mentioned about the flu, even. So it's really unsure exactly what the exact cause of her death was, but she ruled from 1553, I believe, to 1558, and she was well known and got the title or labeled Bloody Mary due to her intense and interesting ideas regarding execution. One of them being burning at the stake. There was also another potential person who kind of brought up the um, urban legend was a young woman by the name of, I believe, Mary Worth. was accused. This goes very this part varies because in some reads I found it says that she was accused of witchcraft during the Salem witch trials and or she was a witch. So it differs on I guess the legend itself.
It's a flip of
What?
it's a flip of a coin.
Yeah. So I mean, depending on which like urban legend story you're going with, it'll vary between that. However, so my breakdown for this is going to be actually pretty interesting, and I believe the origin for Bloody Mary is actually Mary Worth. Now, the reason because this a lot of times with vengeful spirits and malevolent spirits at times they tend to be vengeful for a reason, and it's usually because it was a tragic death or uh, basically they were accused of something that they weren't or something that they did, so on, stuff like that. So I believe it was probably Mary Worth because it seems like for Queen Mary the First, her death seemed a bit more less. From the information gathered, at least, it seems a bit more less like tragic in a sense. And I'm not saying any death isn't tragic, but to become a vengeful and malevolent spirit, I don't think dying from a type of cancer or any kind of illness would necessarily put somebody on that route in a spiritual sense, especially after death. So I believe that if Bloody Mary is supposedly this Mary Worth regarding the urban legend, then I believe it's because she was accused of witchcraft when she wasn't. So, as somebody who was a victim or victimized to such accusations, she believed it would be best to basically act on vengeance, revenge. And I think that was her purpose. And I think later on down the road, a lot of her story might have just gotten a little twisted by different people saying different stories or different rumors about her origins. And it just kind of twisted into this tragic story that kind of splits into different varieties of how it happens. And I can't deny this. I myself at one point back in California when I was like I think 15, freshman in high school. I mean, it was just out of curiosity. I one night I wasn't able to sleep because I came across it. I was just like, okay, well, this would be kind of interesting to do, just to kind of see if it works or something like that. And it was also because I wanted to see if maybe if it did work, I could maybe potentially ask it questions
So you
and
think,
see
so you think,
exactly
so you think it was like a genie in
a
the light?
little bit. So
Apologize.
we know that at least with Bloody Mary, the usual like way to summon her is basically in a darkened room. You chant her name usually 3 times. I've did some research and it does say that you could say her name 3 times or more in a mirror, and if done correctly then she'll appear
So,
and whatnot.
so it gave me a video game moment. So there's this game. I forgot to tell the story, but there was a scene in the game where you're this one character, you're in the woods with your friends, but you were dared to go into like a little part in the like a building, close it,
Hmm.
you got a candle, and you say it. And I don't,
Yeah,
but I don't, it never popped up. But it was just like it just reminded me of that a little bit.
yeah, but so that's usually how you basically do the ritual, because it is technically just a ritual chant. um But so one day I decided to try it out just to see like maybe I could like get some questions on exactly what the definitive origin of this legend actually is. And I've always been I haven't always been such a horror fan or whatnot. So I was at times very scared of even watching horror films or anything like that. Eventually, I kind of just forced myself to watch like one of the old classic films in the middle of the night during like a weekend. So I didn't really have anything to do, and I did a whole marathon. And I think after that, I just kind of something like a switch inside me flipped, and then I was just like, okay, I'm cool with this now. And yeah, but so one day I tried to do the basically I tried summoning Bloody Mary in my bathroom mirror when I was still living in California.
Of course.
And I waited a few minutes because sometimes a lot of times with like rituals or something like that, it does take uh some time to kind of like have it potentially appear. So I mean, I waited a couple minutes, about like maybe 5 to 6 minutes at best, and nothing happened. So I was like, okay, well, then this was fake. And a lot of times I think with some of the stuff, they appear not because like you're just doing it, but I could have also done something wrong. I usually at times a lot of people do this with like candles and stuff in the room as like some type of light source, and a lot of times candles are used for like a lot of practices, varying from like light magic and dark magic and stuff like that, obviously. But I didn't use that, so I was just like, fuck it, maybe it'll still work anyways. But it didn't work. So then I was just like, okay, well, I guess that was kind of a bust. Maybe it's not real, something like that. Um, However, I never stopped like being fascinated with it, just because I mean, I consider myself a horror fanatic, but I mean, I'm not like a huge hardcore fan of like everything horror like some people are. I will admit that. But I do have my moments. Amon here can tell you that I've been practically begging him since we started last month for like maybe doing a whole horror stream for October. Um, so,
On that day.
I mean, we talked about it. It was definitely something I brought up first for sure. But I mean, um, yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but it was kind of a fun time for me doing it, at least. I mean, it was something that I definitely at least tried out.
Though I am a curiosity person, but I don't usually do all that. It's not like I don't believe it, because even if it is true, then at least there you go. But I
Well,
just don't.
see, I also
Just take a step,
read that.
I guess.
I also read a lot of. I read doing my research a little bit today. I read that a lot of times they do kind of like appear through like speculation and obviously fear. But I mean, I guess I didn't really have those traits at the time, so that might have
Yeah,
also been the
I
reason.
guess the curiosity is. Sometimes I wonder it's your brain, because like sure, the myth, like the story, the background you say that might be all true. But it's just,
Hmm.
I wonder, it's just when people describe it, your brain does tricks. So when you say it, it will send a signal to your body where you're like your nerves or your attentions are like are
See,
high,
I
and
did
then that's
read
when you
about
feel
that
like
actually. There
when
was something. There was another like um I don't know the term I want to use for this, but there was another like um I guess origin in some form where it was actually based off your um mental perception.
so I guess it depends how high or low it is. Then that's when you know it's like I guess that's when you'll know the perspective. I guess
What was that?
was about the high or low of your like of your mental?
Not really. I think so. It said that it was mostly because if you stare into the mirror long enough for a
Oh,
certain amount of
yeah,
time or whatever,
get the
your
illusion.
mind starts to basically like start playing tricks on you. So, like, for example, like it said if you started like seeing like face started being like distorted or disfigured or something like that, it's because of this like phenomenon. I don't remember the term for it, and I still have the research on my phone. I didn't write it down, but I still had Google up. But the term started with a T, if I'm not mistaken. It was like troxy, um, something like that. And um apologies. I'm trying to look for the term.
All right, we'll be right back.
Um
We'll be right back, folks, just to figure out this information. Give us a moment.
oh, the Troxler's fading strange face illusion. So
Oh,
this is the phenomenon I was talking about so it says here staring into a mirror in dim light can cause visual distortions, making faces seem to melt, distort, or even disappear, which can create a hallucination of seeing a ghost. Um, so that's more like the psychological phenomenon about it, which I mean kind of makes sense. There's also cultural variants. One being I think called like Swarta Madame. It's a Swedish, I guess, legend of Bloody Mary, I believe. Um, Also, forgive me if I'm butchering that.
I mean, I think you're
I
close. I
just
think
kind of
you're
reading it
close.
as I read it.
I think you're
Um,
to what you're trying to say there. I think I've understood.
yeah, but it's spelled like a Svarta and then Madame or Madame. So I mean, you kind of get the gist of it, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it does also say here that like fear in adolescence is really also part linked into like the aspect of the ritual, which goes back to like me talking about like how a lot of people at a lot of times had used this as like some kind of dare whenever they would do truth or dare at a sleepover, stuff like that. So I mean, it's really, I guess that also kind of takes place because a lot of times with this sort of thing, I mean, children alone have so much spiritual energy, and I think it's because they are so innocent at times. So just that alone mixed with like the soul and everything like that, all of the like innocence and purity and whatnot like that is just, it adds on to that like magical bit to it. So I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily exactly the case, but I mean, fear alone in stuff like this does take a huge part of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if like certain ages are kind of like the necessity to it happening. So I mean, I don't know, but I definitely know when I tried it, it didn't work, and I just kind of moved on with my life, and yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll go off topic because sometimes when people try to do that to you, it's like you think you ask them, it's like, so are you? Because are you doing it because believe you believe this? Because I know you're trying to do it to scare someone, but it's like, how about you try it? Because it's like if you're asking someone, I'm just saying me as an example, but it's like if you're asking
Yeah,
me to do
and
something that
a
is
lot of
actually
times it somebody who is like basically like daring you to do it, it is the intention of like purposely bringing their fear into the person you're trying to make do it. So I mean,
I
it
wonder
has that
what if it's
intention.
actually the one saying it is actually the one that's afraid, and then he just wants to be sure.
Yeah,
To
that's
know.
kind of I think what the point is. I think maybe it's because I mean, like I said, a lot of like stuff like this, it does really like what empowers it is fear for the most part, especially a lot of the darker entities. So I mean, it does include a lot of like emotional empowerment for stuff like this. So I mean, fear being one of it. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. Um, the person, if I'm not mistaken, you were trying to say like the person who was basically trying to like dare the other to say it is the one that was really more
Really?
afraid of.
Yeah, like I just wonder it's the person that says it.
Yeah, I think a lot
That's
of times that's kind
great.
of like I do think a lot of times that's at the case. Because I mean, in a lot of the movies when they do shit like that, they or shows they do like kind of put on this like over exaggerated like break when like trying to downgrade the other person into doing it. So it's like, oh, what you chicken? Is that why you don't want to do it? Stuff like that. So I mean, I don't know. It could definitely have that effect. I mean, it could be the fact that maybe somebody is um, the person who's trying to start the dare is more afraid of the consequences than the person who's getting dared in some way. So
Yeah, that was just my curious, but
who knows? I mean, I will say though, the whole Bloody Mary like legend itself is so massive, and it's literally just because of the fact that there's so many like like variety. It's very weird that it has so many origins. There was also like one part of it I think I read that talked about like the um like part of the slavery sections, even like the railroads. So I mean, it goes into a whole bunch of different things. I mean, it splits off like a tree, literally like branches from a tree. So there's really no exact telling what the definitive origin of Bloody Mary actually is, but in my opinion, I believe it might be the Mary Worth one because that gives off the most like solid evidence of someone becoming like a um, vengeful spirit or some type of a like angry, violent spirit or malevolent spirit. Um, yeah. So I mean, it's no like general centerpiece to like what the actual origin is, but it was definitely a fun read to it.
looks like I was going in now a little bit for AJ. So let's get right to uh, the next folklore, urban legends, and that is the Wendigo. And for me, Wendigos, a lot of people interpret it. In the game called Until Dawn, which they show their way of an urban legend of pretty much like a beast with like long nails, very thin, very lengthy, but it's like its skin is so thin and grotesque that and it attacks its claws and it's so fast. But then some people say you might think it's the whole like you see like in the woods you see something with like kind of like a deer skull with antlers or whatever sort of way you can interpret, but it's like that's usually
Yeah,
another.
there's definitely a lot of there's definitely a lot of like different designs or like versions of a
What's
Wendigo.
what's interesting, that's actually kind of like European lore, not lore, but um,
I think you were meaning like folklore.
no, like European settlers kind of altered the story of the
Oh
adaptation
yeah,
of the Wendigo. So you kind of think of werewolves and vampires. So it's like that
yeah.
they almost got their inspiration from is from a Wendigo. But in case you guys don't know what the heck what a Wendigo,
The the interesting trait of like actually, jump into that a little bit after what you were going to say. Go on.
So, pretty much, not a little background, but according to my research, a lot of Native Americans kind of believe this myth because they believe it's actually kind of like a person that's almost in a way being punished. Well, usually it's like if you're alone and if you're with a person, that person dies, you're starving, so the only thing you can eat is the person next to you. You eat everything. But it's the it's like you kind of get in this metamorphosis, like you're getting this change and you're just starting to feel like really hungry. It's like almost like it's literally like kind of like yours with Bloody Mary, kind of like a vengeful sort of like spirit. So the the Azuribe, Cree, and the Algonquin, they're just like sort of native tribes, certain tribes of the Chippewa people, and that's just their belief. Is
I
like
um I also highly believe in this specifically, just because I have Native American heritage in my family. So like this was also another reason why I kind of like thought of like, oh, we could talk about the Wendigo aspect and legend. So
well, another thing that's kind of interesting is not just the transformation, but it's actually the mental part.
yeah,
My research is considered like it's actually like it's a bond disorder of like a delusion where as if when you're transforming into a Wendigo, you're eating human parts, but it's not you that's kind of like devouring it, but of course it's you to survive. But you notice you're having this tendency to just keep going because it's like there's some like
well,
event spirit or more of a kind of like
see, I think part of it is the fact that going diving into this a little bit to add on to your description is that I think it really like unlocks this like animalistic behavior that humans have. And I mean, because technically as humans we are still in a sense animals. I mean, we basically do everything like an animal usually does, and we are considered a part of the mammal faction of the animal kingdom. So we are just a little bit more evolved to where we don't usually dive into a sense of animalistic behavior, but when it does happen, it does kind of. I think if you do it so much, because it does say if you go into cannibalism for a certain amount of time for the transformation to becoming a
or the
Wendigo,
metamorphosis of
is
it.
yeah, is that it doesn't happen just like overnight. It takes some time to kind of go through, and it's through this time where you're continuing to eat the flesh of another human being that like alters your spirit in a sense where it's I'm trying to find the right term here.
Like getting
Humans have kind of evolved from uh better.
yeah for now. Sorry, you've been going in and out.
Okay. Um as I was saying, I was saying that I think it really unlocks this like animalistic behavior that humans have technically evolved from to a certain extent. And then through this, it also brings out this like darker desire of one's personality, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
in a way. So I mean it kind of slightly adds into like what you're trying to say a little bit,
Yeah,
but that's kind of like my little description of like how it sort of happens. But if we're getting into a bit more like comparison, it's more of just like cannibalism on steroids.
Or like pretty much, yeah, relentless hunger. But like it's like the notes I said, like some a fact you probably didn't know is, of course, I mean, the smell. You probably don't even know what it smells like when you see it. It's cold and so dense. It's just pretty much your body's having an advanced state of decomposition. So, when you die, you decompose over time, but let's just say your human self is decomposing, but it's like that's what's happening, but you're a Wendigo. You're like the smell is it's horrific enough. So I thought that was interesting. Cause you always know when you see a Wendigo or you watch a Wendigo from some movie or game, you probably think like, what is actually it actually has a smell, or is it just like you don't smell it, but you see it
They
have a
they
certain.
are also considered a they are also considered like a apex predator in a remarkable like hunter. So I mean like it has every attribute of like a human does, but it enhances their physical attributes and their senses. So they could also, believe, in some folklore for the legend is that they could mimic voices. They can they're expert trackers. They're incredibly strong, and the only way you could really kill it is by fire. So um flamethrower, torch, um, flare, stuff like that. I mean, that's like the only way you can technically kill it is
Well,
by
that
fire in
you
most
can't. Well,
cases.
it's not like you can shoot it and see if it burns. You literally gotta leave. Like if you exclude the flamethrower, you literally gotta take something fiery and stab, kind of like a vampire. This is what the Europeans like the vampire term, where you stab it in its heart, because the body is so dense that it's literally like you can literally.
Yeah.
I mean, their bones are very strong because of its size, but it's or very dense. But it's like if you can literally just take
Well, that, but
them apart.
also I believe that for what?
I was saying just stabbing its you stab it in its cold heart. In a way, it
Oh,
lets
both. Yeah.
you. It's like you. Well,
um.
I don't know if it's true. If like the Wendigo, sure, it's dead, but that's the vengeful spirit of that goes to whoever's next. Where else is trying to survive or something.
Well, potentially.
But
Um.
people do take it
I mean,
like
maybe.
well, people do take it like it's not like an act of punishment, but it's like if it it's just like it's the if you commit cannibalism, that's the consequence. Your spiritual it's possessing itself or at least changing into something that
I also have to say, I believe the reason why it gets such a title to be labeled as like an apex predator is because in a lot of cultures, certain parts of the body also grant like certain abilities. And that's not just from humans, but also any animal as well. So, I mean, in some beliefs, if you eat certain, um, for example, like if you eat like a certain piece of like a cheetah, you could gain its speed. I believe for like that is like if you eat the heart of a cheetah, you basically get your stamina and your speed enhanced at like a sort of supernatural level or aspect. And that goes with like any other type of animal or
or
I
any
think
act
human in a
and then
case. And I
other
think that's kind of what
but go on.
go on.
Sorry. Okay. Well,
Oh,
not
well,
only
I was
that,
just gonna finish it off and say that like um that I think that's also why it with Wendigos, it they have such enhanced like attributes is because the parts that they're eating off their fellow man during the transformation or metamorphosis is from what Amon said was that they're gaining the abilities from these certain parts they're eating, and that's what enhances their physical traits and their senses.
And like the whole disorder thing, it's called Wendigo psychosis.
Okay, I didn't know that.
The mental aspect.
Okay, interesting.
But here's the other thing you probably didn't know. This isn't 100%, but there's a possible hope chance to prevent yourself becoming a Wendigo. It's just pretty much being self-aware. If you're not self-aware of what you're kind of like doing, then it's pretty much you're gonna get in that metamorphosis and then you start becoming a Wendigo.
Interesting.
But if you're at least
Right, because
if you're at
if
least
you're basically self-aware,
you saying pretty much like an apex predator, if it's very aware
yeah,
of the situation, then it knows. But think of this as a kind of like as you're about to turn, you gotta at least be self-aware of what's happening. Because if you're not, that's like it doesn't. It's not 100%. Because it gives you at least a possibility you can prevent yourself. Sure. Because
I wonder if that's it. I wonder if that's because maybe some believe if you're self-aware during the transformation or metamorphosis is because that you're just like, oh shit, I'm eating another person. Maybe I should stop this.
and there's been a historical account in the 17th century of I guess these two Navajo chiefs. I don't have the full story, but there's a chief named Jack Fiddler and Swift Runner, where I guess they're like the symptoms of it. It's like being like when you're severely cold, I guess, and maybe I
Yeah,
don't.
that's another trait regarding the metamorphosis is that it regards like the need of survival and then also like warmth, I believe, especially if it's like in very cold um areas, I think. I could be wrong about that, but go on.
Well, like as I was saying about like Wendigos never like some people believe the whole antler thing, but that wasn't really the case. They don't really have antlers. That's where the Europe's kind of like because you saying like
Oh.
a lot of people twist the whole Bloody Mary thing.
Yeah, I
They're all
think
Christians.
yeah, I think that's like different cultural aspects or
Like,
beliefs in a
but
way.
no, like the original tale did never had antlers. That was just been told by European settlers
Interesting.
on
Well,
how
yeah, because wasn't the original legend for
well,
Wendigos were based off like Native American legends?
yeah, that's what I was saying beforehand. Like Native Americans kind of began the tale. They believe it's like a vengeful. It's a like a punishable spirit for people that commit greed, cannibalism, and there's one other thing. But it's like the consequence is, I guess, becoming a Wendigo. I guess like not knowing your own
Interesting. Okay.
self. So I don't know if it's completely true of like a Wendigo. Sure, cannibalism is one thing, but it could mean like within yourself being greedy. Just with greed, like being so greedy, it's like you're slowly kind of losing your mind because you're so greedful of something. I'm assuming, and that's where it's like, that's when like the spirit of the Wendigo kind of attaches your soul, and you start to change in that way. But it's like it punishes in different ways.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't know that aspect. All right. I was definitely missing
Well,
something about
I'm summing it. I'm just trying
the
to sum
basic
it.
information I knew.
Well, I'm just summing up
Well,
like certain parts.
also, I thought it was kind of funny that, like, you found a definitive origin for the Wendigo, but there's like no definitive origin for Bloody Mary. So I
Well,
like
like,
how we got one that has a like original like place of the legend from, and then the other one, and then the other one is just like kind
I
of
was
just
actually
branches
trying to
off.
figure out if there's actually like where about the word. Because part of them, what the heck is a Wendigo? Because when you hear it, you hear the word wind and you hear go, so it's like you don't know what does that actually like. What's the meaning? Because it's you mean getting the research of just like what it is and how some people altered it to change it to be like something with horns and antlers, like a deer skull or something. Like it's some human or some spiritual thing that just walks or something like that. But here's what gets interesting. I guess Wendigos can be contagious. I'm just putting that in question mark because because some legends actually hint that for Wendigos, for at least a certain time, that as it integrates with society, that I guess it gets can be like infectious within itself, and then it can overact. It's like over their senses, like it's overreaching. I guess you could say with their attributes in the mind of the community. But I don't know, like like saying that they can possibly like cause themselves to become. I don't know about like, but saying that windows can be contagious, I guess within themselves of becoming it. I mean, that's where the little self-aware is. So that's where the Wendigo can get a little contagious. And not only that, they're not just only capable of not only just communicate, but they can also cohabitation with the manipulation of humans, like you're saying about like echo, like talking. You hear it of that some person you know and such. But yeah, but if anything else, I think that will do it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed a topic of urban legends. We'll do more in